Alright guys, in this video I'm going to be looking at factorization of quadratic expression. But before we begin to start factorizing our quadratic expression, we need to know what it means to factorize. What it means to factorize. To factorize means to break down an expression into the product of its factors. So it means to split an expression into products of its factors. For instance, let's say we have 12x. I can factorize 12x by splitting 12x into product of its factors. Take for instance, 12x can be split into 3 then multiplied by 4x. So this is just a simple analogy of factorization. So when we are being asked to factorize an expression, it means they want you to simplify that expression in such a way that it will be having 2 or more factors multiplying themselves to give you the original expression. So in this case now I have 12x, which can be factorized as 3 multiplied by 4x. And when you multiply 3 and 4x together, you see that you get back 12x. Also, 12x can be factorized as 6 multiplied by 2x, as many ways as possible. So that is just the concept of factorization. So if you are being asked to factorize a particular expression, it means they want you to split that expression into the product of its factors. So you split them into 2 or more factors multiplying one another to give you back the original expression. So having known what factorization is all about, now let us move into what we have proper. Now, the general form of a quadratic expression can be written as, is given as ax raised to the power of 2 plus bx plus c. So this is the general form of a quadratic expression. Ax raised to the power of 2 plus bx then plus c. Now where a, b and c are constants, so they are all constants. Please take note of this. A is not equal to 0. A can never be equal to 0, because if a equal to 0 here, 0 multiplied by x squared will definitely give us what? 0. And when we have 0 here, it means it is no longer a quadratic expression. So a must not be equal to 0. So a, b, and c, they are constant, where a must not be equal to 0. And also a is the coefficient of x. A is the coefficient of x. Of x squared, sorry. So a is the coefficient of x squared. Coefficient means the number beside a particular letter. So the coefficient of x squared, as in the quadratic expression that I've written above, is a. So which means the coefficient of x will be what? Will be b. So where b is the coefficient of x. and C is the constant term. So C is the constant term. That is the term that is standing alone, the number that does not have a variable. And of course, based on the quadratic expression that I've written above, we already established that it is a trinomial quadratic expression. Why? Because it is having three terms. It's a trinomial quadratic expression because it is having three terms. So the general form of a quadratic expression is given as this. Of course, we can have other ones which are binomial, but the general form is given as ax squared plus bx then plus c. Of course, we can have ax squared plus bx without having a constant. And as well, we can have ax squared plus c without having your bx. So these are all quadratic expressions. But the general form of a quadratic expression is in trinomial form, which is ax squared plus bx and plus c. Other ones are also quadratic expressions. So these are the kind of expressions you'll be seeing under quadratic expression. And these are the kind of expressions that we'll be factorizing as we continue. So let's look into the following examples on how to factorize quadratic expression. It says factorize the following. So these are all quadratic expressions. You understand how a quadratic expression looks like, and you can differentiate between an expression and an equation. An expression does not have the equal sign. So this is a quadratic expression. Why? The highest power of x here is 2. So it is a quadratic expression. So how do we factorize? We've already established what factorizing means. To factorize means to, split a particular expression given to you into the product of its factors. So, for instance, I gave you 12x, which I can factorize into 4 times 3x. That is, 4 is multiplying 3x. So, I split 12x into the product of its factors, which is 4 and 3x. So, multiplying them together, it means you have factorized 12x like that. And that is what we're going to be doing with these quadratic expressions. So when you are faced with a quadratic expression, how do you go about it? So the way you go about, solving, factorizing quadratic expression is quite different from the way you factorize the one I just gave you now, which is 12x. So there are some steps that needs to be properly taken care of. Now let's quickly look into this. Solution. The first one, we should factorize x raised to the power of 2 plus 4x plus 3. So what are the steps that we need to put into consideration? So the first thing we need to put into consideration is be able to identify your constants. This a, b, and c. So if I compare x squared plus 4x plus 3 with the general form of a quadratic equation that I've given here, which is ax squared plus bx plus c. So let me compare. If I compare, I will have ax squared plus bx plus c. And as you can see, we are able to discover that the coefficient of x squared in the question given is 1, which is synonymous to a. You can say a equal to 1. The coefficient of x in both cases, so in the equation, in the expression given, we have 4, while in the general form it is b, so we can say b equal to 4, while your constant c equal to 3. But that's not the bone of contention. So that's not the bone. I'm just trying to let you understand how you can get your a, b, and c respectively. Now let's quickly look into the steps for solving this. So the first thing we need to do is we multiply the coefficient of x squared with the constant, which is 3. and the coefficient of x squared is 1. So we are going to be multiplying them together. So we have 3 multiplying 1. So we have 3 multiplying 1. So let me write the steps. So we multiply the coefficient of x squared with the constant, with the number that is standing alone. So with the constant. And in this case, the coefficient of x squared is 1. That is the number that is beside, that is with x squared is 1. Though we are not going to be writing 1, but we all know that it is 1. So 1. Why? The constant here is 3. So when I multiply 1 and 3 together, so 1 times 3 will give me 3. So that's the first step. Multiply the coefficient of x squared with the constant. So after getting that, you now need to get the factors of the answer that we have gotten here, which is 3. So the factors of the multiplication, we have to get them such that when you add up the 2 factors, they must give you the coefficient of x. So the next step is look for 2 factors of 3. So look for 2 factors of 3, because the product is 3 already. So look for 2 factors of 3 that add up to give us 4, because the coefficient of x in the middle there is 4. So that add up to give 4. So that's what we're going to be looking at now. What are the factors of 3? Factors of 3 means the number that can divide 3. So factors are numbers that can divide a bigger number. So what are the factors of 3? So the factors of 3, we have 1 and 3. Because 1 multiplied by 3 is going to give us 3. So 1 and 3. And that's not the only factors of 3, because these are not the only numbers that when they multiply each other will give us 3. So we have to look into the signs also. And also another factor is -1 and -3. -1 times -3 will also give me +3. So we have to consider the signs also, positive and negative signs. So we are not going to be looking at only the positive signs. So -1 and -3 will also give me +3. So out of these factors that I've gotten, which of them can I add up to give me 4? Because 4 is the number, is the coefficient of x as we have here. So which of them can be added up to give me 4? Now let me try the first one. The first one is going to be 1 plus 3. Of course, it's going to be equal to 4. Now let's try the second one. -1 plus -3. Don't forget we are adding them up. So -1 plus -3 is going to be -1 minus 3. And that is going to be -4. And as you can see, the correct one that I'm going to be using is the first one, which is 1 and 3. Because 1 plus 3 is going to give me 4, which is the coefficient of x at the middle of my question. Why -1 minus 3 is going to give me -4. So I'm definitely not going to be using the second factors that I've gotten. So what I'm not going to do after getting the 2 factors, which is 1 and 3, is I'm going to be splitting the middle number, which is 4x that I've got, that is in the question. I'm going to be splitting it into the 2 factors, which is 1 and 3. So instead of me writing 4x, I'm going to be replacing 4x with 1 and 3. That is x plus 3x instead of 4x. Don't forget, x plus 3x is also the same thing as 4x. So, and that's the next step. So we are going to be replacing. So replacing, we have x squared. Please, instead of writing 4x, you write 1x plus 3x. That's what I'm saying. So that's plus x, then plus 3x. Or you can write x squared plus 3x plus x. So you can write 3x before x. So it does not change anything because addition is commutative. We are going to talk about that later. Then plus 3. So you can see my question has been written in another form. It's going to be x squared plus x plus 3x plus 3. Now, we can now group them into 2, which is x squared and x, then 3x and 3. So grouping them into 2, I'm going to be factorizing. Don't forget, to factorize means to split a number into the product of its factors. So we are going to be looking at what is common between x squared and x. That is, what can divide both x squared and x that we have here at first. So x is a number that is common between the two expressions. So we have x. So I'm going to be using x to factor out each of them. So x in x squared is going to give us x. That is dividing x squared by x. That's what I'm saying. Then plus x in x is going to give us 1. Of course, I'm going to be doing the same thing with the other ones that I've marked out, which is 3x and x. So 3 is common here. Thus 3 can divide 3x, and at the same time 3 can divide 3. So I'm going to be writing plus 3 into bracket, then be using 3 to divide 3x is going to be giving us x also. And of course, plus using 3 to divide 3 is going to give us 1. And as you can see, the answer now is now going to be x plus 1, because I'm going to be writing out one of the two brackets that I've gotten, two answers that I've gotten in the bracket, which is x plus 1 and x plus 1. So I'm going to be bringing out one of them, so which is x plus 1. Then I'm going to write out x, which is outside, and plus 3, which is also outside. So multiplying x plus 3. And this is what it means to factorize a quadratic expression. Now, looking at this, it means when I expand this quadratic expression, it's going to give me back the question. So it means x raised to the power of 2 plus 4x plus 3 is the same thing as x plus 1, x plus 3, which is a factorization of the question given to me. So that is what it means to factorize. To factorize means to split a particular expression into the product of its two factors. So in this case, you can see x plus 1 multiplying x plus 3. I've done the splitting. So let's take these steps into solving other questions. Now let's move to the second question. So the second question says we should solve y squared plus 19y minus 20. So we are going to be much faster now since we already know the steps. So the first step is to multiply the coefficient of y squared with the constant. The constant is minus 20. You have to go in line with the sign. So it is minus 20. So we have 1 times minus 20. So it's going to give us minus 20. Then the next thing is we are going to be looking for the factors of minus 20, such that when you add them up, they're going to give you plus 19, which is the one in the middle, as you can see. So what are the factors of minus 20? What are the factors? So the factors of minus 20, what are the numbers that you can multiply together to give you minus 20? So I can multiply Let me write it here. I can multiply 1 and minus 20 together. So 1 times minus 20 is going to give me minus 20. Of course, I can even use minus 20 multiplied by 1. So minus 20 times 1 is going to give me minus 20 also. Also, I can multiply 2 and minus 10. 2 times minus 10 is going to give me minus 20. And of course, I can change into minus 10 multiplying 2, which is also going to give me minus 20. And of course, I can still use 4 and 5. I can say 4 times minus 5. Okay, let me use and. 4 and minus 5. 4 times minus 5 is going to give me minus 20 also. Or I can say minus 5 times 4. So minus 5 and 4 is also going to give me minus 20. So these are the factors that can give me minus 20 when I multiply them together. So I'm going to be inspecting all of these. Which one is going to give us 19 when we add together? So if I have 1 minus 20, that is 1 plus minus 20, which is the first case. So it's going to give me minus 19, which is not the same thing as plus 19 that I have in the question. So if I have minus 20, okay, it's not minus 20, it's going to be minus 1. Oh, so if I have minus 1 minus 20, it's going to give me minus 19, which is not the same thing as plus 19 that I have. Then I move to the second one, which is, okay, it's not minus 20. In this case, the 20 is going to be assuming a positive sign, and 1 is going to be assuming a negative sign. So we have plus 20 minus 1. So when we have 20 minus 1, it's going to give me 19. So this is the perfect numbers to use, because plus 20 minus 1 is going to give me 19. So I don't think I need to, look into others. So, and if you want to look into others, let's quickly look into others. We have 2 and minus 10. 2 minus 10 is going to give us minus 8, which is not the same thing as 19. And I can change the sign of minus 10 into plus 10. Plus 10 and minus 2 now is not going to give me 19 also. It's going to give me 8. And the same thing, 4 minus 5 is going to give me minus 1. Or if I want to use the second one, which is plus 5 and minus 4, it's going to give me 1. So none of these will give me plus 19, except, so this is not going to give me plus 19, except the second one, which is plus 20 and minus 1. So 20 minus 1 is going to be minus 19. So I'm going to be replacing 19y, the term in the middle, with 20 and minus 1. And that's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to be writing the question again, replacing now. So we have y squared. So instead of me to write plus 19y, so I'm going to be writing plus 20y, then minus 1y. So plus 20y minus y. So I'm not going to be writing 1y. So minus y, same thing as 1y. Then I'm going to be writing minus 20. So that's the step. I'm going to be grouping them into 2, which is y squared and what? And 20y. At the same time, minus y and 20. So between y squared and 20y, y is common. So you now write it out. Y into bracket. Y in y squared is going to be y. Then plus y in 20y is going to be 20. That is, when you divide y squared by y that is outside, it's going to give you y. And when you divide plus 20y by y that is outside, it's going to give you 20. Then we move to the second one. The second one, we have minus y minus 20. Minus 1 is common in both terms. So then we write minus 1 into brackets. When you divide minus y with minus 1, it's going to give you plus, because dividing minus by minus is going to give you positive. So we have plus y. Also, when you divide minus 20 by minus 1, it's going to give you plus also. So 20 divided by 1 is also 20. Sorry. So you can see the both stuffs that are inside the bracket are the same. So we just write one of them out, which is going to be y plus 20. Then we write y minus 1 that are outside also in another bracket, y minus 1. So factorizing the expression given to us, the answer is this. You can see we have factorized it in such a way that it becomes product of its two factors, which are y plus 20 and y minus 1. So factorizing y squared plus 19y minus 20 is y plus 20, open bracket and close bracket, then open bracket again, y minus 1. And this is how you solve this. Now let us now solve the third question using the same format. No, don't let me use the same question, but because the same question is having p squared, the coefficient is 1. So let's use a question where the coefficient of p squared, or the coefficient of the variable that is having square, is more than 1. So let's have for example, let's have 8x squared minus 10x minus 3. So we are going to be using this minus 3, sorry. So we're going to be using this, so such that the coefficient of x squared here is not 1 now, so it's having a bigger number. So the same procedure, we multiply the coefficient of x squared, which is 8, by minus 3. So multiplying the coefficient of x squared and minus 3, we have minus 24. So the next thing is we look for the factors of minus 24 such that they add up to give us minus 10, that is in the middle here. So what are the factors of minus 24? That is, what are the numbers that will multiply each other that will give you minus 24? So I'm going to be starting with 24 itself, which is 24 and what? And minus 1. So 24 times minus 1 is going to give us minus 24. Also 1, or let me change the sign of 24 to minus now. So minus 24, and this time around, and 1 is going to give us minus 24. But when you look at this, when you add up 24 minus 1 together, it's never going to give you minus 10. And at the same time, when you add up minus 24 plus 1 together, it's never going to give you minus 10, because this is going to give you minus 23, while the first one is going to give you 23. So, and we have minus 10. Then we move into other factors. So the other factors, 2 can also go. So we have 2 and minus 12. Because 2 times minus 12 is going to give us minus 10. And at the same time, minus 2 and minus 12, and plus 12 rather, is going to give us minus 24 also. So we can look into other ones, which is 3. And say 3 and minus 8 will give us minus 24, and minus 3 and 8 will also give us minus 24. And lastly, 4 and 6 can also do that. And say 4 and minus 6, and at the same time we say minus 4 and 6. Now let's quickly look at this. So we've established how that these ones would never give me minus 10, which is the term at the middle. Then let's look into 2 and 12. So 2 and minus 12. 2 minus 12 is going to give me minus 10, as you can see, which is outright the same number, same term that we have here, minus 10. So that is what we are going to be using actually. So there's no point stressing ourselves looking into other ones, because other ones will not give us minus 10. So 2 and minus 12 are what we are going to be using. So we are going to be replacing the middle term, which is minus 10x, into the two numbers that we have gotten here, which is 2 and minus 12. So let's quickly do that. So we have 8x squared. So instead of me writing minus 10x, I'm going to be replacing it with plus 2x, because we have 2. So plus 2x. At the same time, we have minus 12. So we have minus 12x. Very simple. Then we have minus 3. So from here we group them into two, this and this, then this and this. Of course, 2x is common between 8x squared and 2x. So we'll bring it out, 2x into bracket. So 2x in 8x squared, 2 can divide 8, which is going to give us 4. And at the same time, x can divide x squared, which is going to give us x. So we have 4x here. Then 2x in 2x is going to give us 1. So 4x plus 1. At the same time, we move into minus 12x and minus 3. Minus 3 is common in the both of them. So we write it out, minus 3, then into brackets, minus 3 in minus 12x is definitely going to give me plus, because minus dividing minus is positive. So 3 in 12x is going to be 4x also. Then minus 3 in minus 3, minus 3 minus 3 is going to give us plus. Then 3 in 3 is going to give us 1. As you can see, we have the same result in the bracket, 4x plus 1, 4x plus 1. So we are correct. Then we bring one of them out, which is 4x plus 1. Then we write the remaining one, which is 2x and minus 3 that are outside the bracket. So we have 2x, then minus 3. So this is the result of factorizing 8x squared minus 10x minus 3. You can see it's very simple to factorize. Very easy to factorize a quadratic expression that is trinomial in nature anyways. So in our next video, we're going to be looking at how can we factorize quadratic expressions that are not trinomial, that are binomials. I would have loved to do everything in this video, but our time is already fast spent. So we're going to be looking at binomials, quadratic binomials. How can we factorize them? Please anticipate, do well to like, subscribe, and share. You are great.